Some people are just walking around with site plans and say they have their land document. It doesn't give you the ownership. Some people are walking around with indentures. Indenture is also not a proof of ownership. Sometimes people say in Ghana the laws don't work, but they work when they need to. And especially if you find yourself in trouble, most of the real estate companies, the value that they give you for your money are pretty small rooms, and you can do better, right, with your own money.
So are you going to say that the average cost of building a 3 or 4 bedroom house, land not inclusive, is around So most of my viewers are migrants from Africa and Asia. And then I know that for most viewers, being in this part of the world, you definitely like to own a property back home, like build a house. And when it comes to building houses in Africa, particularly Ghana, I would say that we have the best person here to help us, all about it, Africa Building Hub. I came across your Instagram and I was really, really impressed, honestly. I have learned quite a lot in a very, very short time. You're doing very well. Although there are channels that talk about building and all that in Africa, but they don't go into details like the way you do. You're doing so well. Like 2x6 wood cost how much? Gas and cement cost this much. Like, you're doing really well. I like the detail. So kindly introduce yourself briefly.
Thank you, first of all, Nanelle, for having me on your channel. I've also been watching your content for a while, especially now that nurses migrating to the UK is trending all over the news. I am a social media person. I create content. I've been working on multiple channels, but then I saw that there was a need to talk about the building and real estate sector in Ghana because a lot of people were not doing it the way I felt it needed to be shown. Most people were talking about luxury real estate buildings and stuff like that, but people are not going into details when it comes to some of the challenges you are going to face, the cost of acquiring land, building, etc. So based on my personal experience when I lost land in the year 2020, which cost close to like $20,000 to $30,000. So I felt that there was a lot of people who want to build are not aware of, and it's good for someone to create a platform to share and build a community. People would also share their experiences, etc. And then people who are now coming to start building will not need to make those same mistakes that some of us made. So if somebody is going to pay so much money and then lose their land, then it's not worth it, right? So we decided to start a channel to educate people on the challenges when it comes to building, the opportunities, tips to save money, etc. And that's why we started the Africa Building Hub platform.
What is your background? Did you do like architecture in school, or did you do building and construction in school? What is your background in education? I'm interested. I'm curious.
That's a really interesting question. My background is in banking and finance, right? So that's what I've done. But like I said, I started building. Like every young person wants to have a house or a home of their own. So I wanted to start early because land is expensive and land is also a finite resource.
And I know very well that my viewers are really going to benefit from this because most people, when you move outside, the first thing is you want to build something back home for, let's say, family or something that you'd go back home to when you go on holidays or something. And I sort of like always discourage people, let me be honest, in doing that because I am so afraid of them losing their money. So like my husband and I, we are both from Ghana. We decided to buy a house in the UK instead of send money to friends and family. Probably they'll spend the money, or how share we that we're going to get a genuine piece of land that has no litigation issues. Because you hear people, like I was watching Honorable Kennedy J. Japan, and he was saying that even him, he was duped. Okay, yeah. So how much less the rest of us that are here and that we don't have somebody to, let's say, look after things for us, like the possibility of getting duped is so high. So for me, I always preach that instead of focusing on properties outside or back home, do it here. But then when this whole Russia-Ukraine thing came about, and then there was a story of this Nigerian man who had lived all his life in Ukraine and built all his properties there. And when this whole thing came and he had to go back home, now he was going back home to nothing. He didn't even have like a kiosk. So like that really hits me, and like, you still don't have to put all your eggs in one basket. Home is home. So like of recent times, like I've been thinking about maybe you should get something, at least maybe a piece of land. But the thought of it still scares me. What do you think? How would people in the diaspora, how can we get like a land in Ghana or wherever free from litigation with all these land guards and stuff? What things do we check? What are the documents? How do we ensure that we have safely bought something that we can own without any issues?
That's a very interesting question. Somebody says that it's almost impossible to find land that doesn't have anybody else interested in it, right? Not that it has litigation. So it's basically an issue of interest. You're interested in a parcel of land. I'm also interested in the same parcel of land. And so based on the fact that a lot of sellers don't have integrity, once they have a lot of people expressing interest in that parcel of land, they want to give it to the highest bidder or whoever is ready at whatever point in time. You understand? So in legal terms, they say the buyer is the one who must be where. You must ensure to do your due diligence. And when it comes to due diligence, what does it mean? Does it mean that when you start building, nobody will come and worry you? Even if you do all your due diligence, people are still people everywhere, right? Somebody may want to come and fight with you for something you've legitimately gone to register. And so the basic things that anybody who wants to purchase land needs to do is to ensure that, one, check to see if the person who is selling the land to you is the actual owner. Does the person have the authority to sell the parcel of land to you? So how do you check these things? If, let's say, you are from the diaspora, you don't know anything about Ghana, you need to first of all ask of the person's identification, right? Like the Ghana card. So you'd see the name on the Ghana card and other details. Then you'd also need to go and site the land. Sometimes people see land online and then they make a call and then they negotiate and everything and start making payments without actually viewing the land itself. If the listing says the land is at Achimota, go to Achimota with the person and check to see if the land is there, right? Site the land. Then cite the ID of the person. The next step, if the person doesn't have a site plan, you'd need to get like a surveyor to come and then take the dimensions of the land and the coordinates, right? And then plot a site plan. But if the person already has a site plan, again, you need to verify. So that's why there's the Lands Commission. So you take it to the Lands Commission. And once you do so, what you are going to do is they are going to check the coordinates that were plotted for the site plan and then give you a history of the land. So they'll tell you for, let's say, between the year 1995 to 1998, it was owned by this person. From 1998, it was transferred to another person till date. So every land has a particular history. And so they'll be able to tell you the history and tell you who the current owner is. And if you check the name of the person that they gave you versus the person who is attempting to sell it to you, and then they don't match, then obviously you don't need to proceed to make any payment, right? But even if you check and then the name matches, what do you do? Because there have been instances where the name of the person that is in Lands Commission is the same person selling it to you, like my case, right? I was purchasing the land from a family whose dad passed away and left them the land, and he left without a will. So for them to be able to even sell the land, they needed to go to court to get letters of administration. Now that court process requires that they go and put a notice on the land for 30 days. And anybody who has an interest or a claim to the land will come. So all these things were done. I went to Lands Commission, etc. It gave me a certain degree of comfort that it's gone to court, court has come to place the papers, then nobody came. And so I felt I was okay to make the payment. And so we went to make the payment. However, apparently there was a court case on the land. There was another party that was fighting for ownership of the land. Not just that particular land, the whole area. You understand? And that court case was not documented at that time in the Lands Commission records. And so what I would say is, even when you are doing your due diligence, you still need to take certain common sense principles. That's how I term it. For example, you would want to have like a sense or a taste of the land. So what do? You decide or you agree with a person that, yeah, I want to purchase this land. I've showed interest. I can make a percentage commitment, right? So instead of paying the full amount, if the land is, let's say, $10,000, you don't pay the $10,000. You say, I'll give you, let's say, 30%. I would come and pour my sand and stones, which is allowed by law, on the land. Once you do so, or you say you want to start a foundation or build a wall on it, anybody else who has an interest will show up, so that you don't waste too much of your time, you don't waste too much of your money before some of these things come up. So even if you do all your due diligence, the name of the person on the ID is the same as in Lands Commission, come and pour sand, come and start foundation, come and clear the land, etc. So for me, it was when I was going to clear the land that the other party came. Yes, the whole period that the notice was on the wall, nobody came. It was when I went to clear the land to start building that they showed themselves. So that's something that you can also do before you commit too much of your money and time into the land acquisition process. I hope that makes sense.
That is a lot, and that is very insightful. Honestly, guys, if you're watching, I think you actually need a paper or a pen, or you'd have to rewatch this video several times. Honestly. So we're talking about houses, right? Building houses back home. Okay, let's say you've gotten a reliable person who's putting this up for you, or you're building through an agency or a real estate company or whatever, and then you need to transfer money from the UK, Canada, or the US to these countries. Guys, make sure that you're sending the money through a very reliable money transfer app. If you're looking for a money money transfer app that has the best rate on earth. It's LemFi. Ask anyone about it. When it comes to best rates, they are the best, okay? You don't want to work hard and then you send money using this bogus app and then the money ends up being so small. They take transaction fee and the money goes and then it's so small. No, please guys, make sure that you're sending money through an app where you can actually get value for the money that you're sending. What am I talking about? With LemFi, previously called Lemonade Finance, guys, aside the rates being the best, you do not have to pay any transaction fee. Whatever amount you send is the exact amount that the person is getting. Compared to all other apps, and you see that they have the best rates, okay? So guys, I recommend LemFi to you if you're in the UK, Canada, or the US and you need to send money to these countries: Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Tanzania, Cameroon, Benin, Senegal, Ivory Coast, Uganda, and Rwanda with zero fees, zero charges. Whether you use an iOS or whether you use an Android, you can always download LemFi with the link below and then make your first transfer. If you make your first transfer, above £100, okay, you get a 10% cashback, okay, when you use the referral code Nanelle or the link in the description. So when you send £100, you get £10 back. Yeah, that's your first transaction of £100 and above. When you send £200, you get £20 back, but it's capped at £50, okay? So make that money. And the amazing thing is you can as well generate your own referral link, so you can share it in your WhatsApp groups, okay? So when your friends also make their first transaction above £100, you get a bonus as well. You are a low-key influencer for LemFi as well. LemFi is trusted by so many big personalities and is used by myself and my friends. If you come on my WhatsApp group, the Ghana Nurses page, everybody's asking, what's the current LemFi rate? That is a trusted mobile app to send money to friends and family, okay? Don't forget to download the app with the link in the description or use the referral link Nanelle and make your first transfer now. Send that money back home and build that house that you want, okay? Using LemFi. Thank you so much, LemFi, for sponsoring today's video.
With your case, did you get the money back? I'm curious.
So I had a friend who was selling his uncompleted building, and I decided to go in for that option and start building. Then when I complete that and I'll go and chase it, at least I have a home. Do you understand? Instead of waiting for court cases, there have been court cases which have lasted for about 20 years. In fact, that particular land that I went to purchase, the court case started in about 2003. So at 2020, when the whole issue came up, that was close to 17 years, right? And there was still an injunction on the land. And that was when it was that year that it was ruled for. The party who was claiming it from the family I purchased it from. 17 years. I don't have 17 years of my life to waste going to court. I'm a very busy person, right? So I can't be doing that kind of thing. Yeah, so for me, I felt if this is what it is, then let me take the most reasonable and practicable steps and acquire a property somewhere. Then when I have a home for my family, etc., and I can take my time and do litigation.
Wow, maybe it's because you had money again to do that second one as well.
That's why I feel that these things need to be shared, because in Ghana, you've been in Ghana before, right? You lived in Ghana.
Oh, yes.
You know how some of our state agencies can be, excuse me to use the word, inefficient, right? So even passport, acquisition of passports. I purchased the passport from Express, like premium, which you would normally get in 1 week, right? I got it after 6 months, right? So this is just passport. Then when it comes to court, I've been to court for other things. I know how the system is. So I don't want people to go through these same things. And that's why we started this channel, to help people avoid some of these pitfalls and traps. Let me give you another instance. You know, Trasaco. Properties at Trasaco are sold in millions of dollars. But recently, there was a court case for Trasaco, the entire Trasaco lands.
I think I heard it, yeah.
And it went back and forth. One court or one judge will rule it for the opposing party. Then they'll go and appeal, and it will be ruled for the Trasaco people. Then they'll go and appeal, right? So imagine you've purchased the property for $1 million and you don't know the future of that property, like what's going to happen. So all these things are real. They are real. You can do all your due diligence, buy an expensive property, but you will still not be able to dodge the situation that we have in Ghana because of what I said in the intro, that there are a lot of interested parties in every parcel of land. And integrity, for some strange reason, is something that some sellers don't value. And so they don't mind selling it to multiple parties. Then they'll pay you later. They know that the court cases also take a long time to be resolved. And so if they are even supposed to pay you back your money, they can decide that they'll pay you in 6 years and 5 years. So there isn't much you can do about it. Just use your common sense.
So currently, what's the average cost of land in, let's say, Accra? Mention the area and then they give us the average so that we can start saving, and in Kumasi as well.
That's a very, very interesting question because there's no fixed rate. And in Ghana, price control is practically or literally non-existent, right? So today, anybody can just wake up and say he has a parcel of land, it's $500,000. But what I've seen, right, is that for land closer to the airport, the prices are higher than when you move further from the airport. And I think that has come up because a lot of the diasporans, when they come to Ghana, they want to live close to the airport in any African country. I don't know why. I don't know if they feel that maybe there will be war or something. So if there is any war, they can quickly evacuate and leave. And so these places have become the prime lands and very, very expensive. So places like airport, cantonments, Laboni, Labadi, Chiado, those areas are pretty close to the airport, East Legon, right? The minimum you get is like $1 million for land in those areas.
In Ghana.
And then once you begin to move further away from the airport, then the prices of land begin to also reduce. So then if, let's say, 3 kilometers to the airport is selling for $1 million, that's the areas I've given you. Then now when you move to about 10 kilometers from the airport, you are moving towards, let's say, Achimota, you are moving towards La Paz, you are moving towards Teshi and those areas. Medina, Adenta. There people are selling lands for like $200,000, etc.
$200,000?
Yes. So usually when I'm driving and I see land for sale and things, I just call to get an idea of how much lands in the areas are going for. If any meets my budget, at least I can purchase it.
Let's go further. These ones are not for me. Let's go further.
So then you'd want to move further, which a lot of the residents will be able to afford, right? So you'd want to move further to Dome, Kwabenya, Insawam, Amasama, Pokwase, etc., right? So at this point, you're like 16 kilometers, 17 kilometers from the airport. Those places you can get like $10,000, $15,000, etc. Then when you move further from, so like 23 kilometers away, 30 kilometers, and you start getting 15,000, 20,000 Ghana cedis lands, which is like $1,200 to $2,000, right? So most people like Kaswa, after Kaswa, Bojiase, like those areas, you can get 30,000 cedis, 40,000 cedis. So that's like $3,000 to $4,000. But then again, you need to consider the transportation costs if you are moving to work, if you are working within the central business district areas.
It's getting tougher each time for people who are yet to build, honestly.
Yeah.
So then that brings me to one of your videos that I watched where you said if you put 2,000 Ghana cedi there, you'll be able to build a house. With these figures that you are mentioning, what kind of house did you mean?
Imagine this. You have a plot of land somewhere at the outskirts of town and 50,000 cedis savings in the bank. Well, in this video, I'm going to show you how you can use 2,000 cedis every month to complete a 3-bedroom project coming up next.
All right, so thank you for the question. With that video I made, we made certain assumptions, right? The assumption was that you already have land. Okay, because if you're going to worry about land, where you get the land is going to determine the total cost, right? So we are not looking at the land, but we are assuming you already have land. Either you got it as like a property that you inherited, or you purchased it some time ago when it was cheaper, or you move further away and you've purchased the land. So that's the basic assumption, that you've purchased land. For me, I want everybody to be able to build, right? Because building shouldn't be something that is left for just the affluent in society. Everybody should be able to build. Now, when it comes to building, it depends on the nature of the house you are building, like the design. Obviously, if you're on a low budget, you're not going to build like a glass house with stones and LED lights and automated stuff, right? You're going to build a pretty basic house to help you avoid rent, right? So with a budget of like 2,000 to 5,000 cedis, which is what the average Ghanaian first degree worker earns, I think you can build, but it's going to take you a period of time.
How much time are we talking about?
Yes, so if you can commit, let's say 2,000 to 5,000 cedis every month on your building project, right? Then essentially, you are going to need between 5 years to 10 years to build on a half plot of land, like a minimum 2 or 3 bedroom house. So how we break that down is we look at the total square area of the land, half plot. And if the half plot is like 50 by 70, right? Because a typical full plot is 100 by 70 in Ghana. So the half plot is like 50 by 70. And we are building within that 50 by 70. And obviously the dimensions are going to be a little smaller, right? So you are going to do like maybe 40 by 50 or maybe 30 by 50 for your house, right? So that translates to the 2,000 square area. And then you are going to multiply that by $30 per square area, because your house is not going to be any huge thing, right?
That's 60,000.
So that's 60,000. If you are now breaking it down into your monthly contribution, which is, let's say, $500, then to get the 60,000 in a year, you are going to do 500 times 12 is 6,000. So 10 years.
Okay, so that was a long-term something on building on a half plot of land. So are you going to say that the average cost of building a 3 or 4 bedroom house, land not inclusive, is around 60,000, 70,000 US dollars in Ghana? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. And roof it, finish it with the lights, the tiles, and all that. Yeah.
Wow. And for us people living abroad, would you advise we build or would you advise we buy, and why? Which is safer?
Very interesting question. So I know people who live abroad usually are concerned about like space, right? The total size of the rooms, because where you live, usually the rooms are pretty cramped, right? Because you can't afford very big mansions. So when they want to come to Ghana, they want to build things that are very spacious. The rooms are very spacious. Somebody like that would want to build, right? Because most of the real estate companies, the value that they give you for your money are pretty small rooms, and you can do better, right, with your own money. But then somebody also wants peace of mind. You don't want to start and have issues with land guards. You don't want to go to land commission. You don't want to be fighting with the inflation rates of cement and the building materials that you use and all that, right? So that person wants to skip all that headache. So it depends on the kind of person that you are. So if you're like me, you'd probably want to buy, because building in Ghana is not a joke. It's not easy. Even if you have money, you can still get to a place where you are going to get stuck, because the prices of cement from last year, we started at around 42 cedis. Today, it's about 98 Ghana cedis, right? In just a year, doubled. And so there's the tendency that you may have planned your budget for the house at $60,000 last year, but this year it's sitting at about $120,000. Your salary will probably not have increased that much, etc. So if you are in the diaspora and you have a lot of money to spare, you don't want to have to worry about, starting from scratch and all the things I mentioned. Just buy. But then the reason why some people also don't want to buy, they can't tell the quality of the materials that were used for the building, right? So these people kind of have like trust issues.
Okay, so talking about buying, let's go to the 30 kilometers away from the airport. How much is houses in such areas that are already built and ready to move into?
So how many bedrooms are we looking at?
4.
For a 4-bedroom house, we interviewed somebody who sells a house at Kwabenya, and it was $175,000, right? Again, it depends on the finishing, the kind of materials they use, what value they are giving you. So the $175,000 was in a gated community. There's security, there's water. We went to a place at East Legon Hills where they were also selling 4-bedroom houses for $110,000 at the start of the year. Now they are selling it at $180,000, right? Because that's how terrible inflation in Ghana can be. And the 3-bedroom house for that same area was going for about $70,000. Currently it's sitting at about $120,000.
Interesting. So another thing that makes me preach that people in the diaspora should try and get a house in wherever country that they are, like the US or the UK, is because over here it's not as difficult to get a place. My husband and I, we did not have to get 100% of the money. We only needed, let's say, 10% of it. You finish it to your taste, and then as you're living in, you pay your mortgage, which is like your rent, and then you can increase it, pay it in, let's say, 15 years, 20 years as you want. But in Ghana, it's really different. Yeah. I know that mortgages in Ghana are not popular, but I've seen some popping up of recent times. I've seen some on the internet. How do mortgages work in Ghana, and would you recommend them?
Yes, I mean, for me, I feel if you get a good mortgage with a good rate, right, repayment rate and repayment period, and your debt service ratio is pretty low, you should go for it. Fully, 100% go for it.
Let's say in the mortgages that you've seen of or heard of about in Ghana, how are they working? Like, how many years are you given to pay, and how much deposit are they usually looking for? I see that in Ghana, it's like they want a lot of money in such a short time. But here, you can get a mortgage for like 35 years. I don't see that in Ghana.
Well, it depends on the mortgage providing institution. So, for example, most of the banks do like between 20 to 25 years, etc. Right? So,
Ghana?
Yes, most of the banks.
Okay.
These are banks. right? And they usually give those facilities to their staff. And if you can prove that you can pay, right, you are from the diaspora, you run your accounts with them for some time, you prove that you have a regular source of income, etc., you can usually get between the 10 to 20 years, which I think most people would, prefer. Then we also have the real estate companies themselves, which also provide certain installment packages. Those ones are pretty short.
Yeah.
Most of them do 1 year to 2 years. So if you go to the bank, then you can get a longer repayment period. If you go directly to the real estate companies, then you are probably going to get a shorter period. So it depends on the institution that you are going with.
Wow.
But then for me, if you get the opportunity to go for a mortgage, just go for it. Because by the time you say you want to save bit by bit and purchase or build that same house you could have gotten with a mortgage, the prices of materials would have tripled, quadrupled, etc. You understand?
Hey, do you do consulting for people that would want to know more? Let's say they want to build a house, they just want somebody to talk to, do you do that as well?
Yes, we do consulting. We get like close to 50 emails every day from people from the diaspora in Ghana, etc. Right? So people come with various needs. People also come with, they've reached a particular stage of the project and they want certain professionals to take over. So we provide all these services for people as well. We have a team of architects, we have engineers within our team. Yeah, we registered a company as well, because once we started talking about these things, the demand was so high to provide these services, because people want people they can trust, especially the people in the diaspora. They want a face they can see and then a voice they can trust. And I believe that we've been able to work and provide value for a lot of these clients as well.
And then you say Africa Building Hub, but do you provide consulting for people from all other African countries or just Ghana?
Okay, so for us, we named the Africa Building Hub and not Ghana Building Hub because, one, we believe that the lessons or whatever we are educating people about is practical and relevant in other areas of Africa as well. Two, we also have a long-term vision of expanding to other markets. And three, we've also interviewed people who are not Ghanaians and who are not even building in Ghana, but provide services outside of Ghana as well. So we don't want to limit ourselves to just the Ghana market, right?
Wow, noted. So in your opinion, do you think people in the diaspora should take my advice and, concentrate on getting properties here? Or do you think they should at least try and get someone in Ghana? My reason for saying that is usually because, in a whole year, my annual leave is just 5 weeks. Okay? And even that 5 weeks, they wouldn't give me all 5 weeks at a go unless it's something very urgent. I'm allowed to take 2 weeks in summer, 2 weeks in autumn, 1 week in whatever. So if I'm coming to Ghana, I'm spending maximum 3 weeks. Okay. So if I build a house, I use all my hard-earned money to build a house in Ghana. And then I go to Ghana and I can only spend 3 weeks. And my family members are enjoying the house that I don't get to see. That's one. Two, another reason is that I also believe that if you invest in property in this part of the world, and I want your honest opinion about this. Let's say you invest in a property here. If you want to go to Ghana, you want to retire and go to Ghana, you can just sell the property here and then use it to get something there. Instead of, because you don't know, like you said, a lot of issues in Ghana. If you don't get somebody like trustworthy to help you, these are some of the things. And I also feel like, why are you paying rent to somebody here when you could actually use that money to get a mortgage? And even when you're living and you're not done paying the mortgage, when you sell the house, you still get like quite a big amount of money or whatever to do whatever you want to do in Ghana. What do you think about all this? Your honest opinion.
Okay, so it depends on the perspective that you are looking at it from, right? So some people are building as an investment, right? So I know people who have built within the same walls of the property, right? They have a place for themselves and then they have a place that they are renting, doing Airbnbs for, right? So it depends. If you are looking at it as an investment, then you can be in the UK and you can be having your own mortgage in the UK and still have properties in Ghana, because I think it's kind of cheaper to build in Ghana than probably in the UK, right? Because getting land in the UK, I'm sure, maybe almost impossible.
You hardly build from the scratch. Usually, it's developers that do that.
Yeah, so I feel that if you want to use it as an investment, then you should build in Ghana, right? Because changing some pounds into cedis can do a lot, right? £1,000 a month going into your project, within 5 years, you could probably have like 2 properties.
Do you think so?
Right. Yeah. Because remember, we looked at if you have $500 a month, then in 5 to 10 years, you can put up a 3-bedroom house, right, for about $60,000. So you can replicate that formula if you invest more money into it, right? And so before you realize, you could have like 4 properties or more and become a real estate owner and be renting them out, right? You can do event houses, you can do Airbnbs, which are very popular with the diaspora people who are coming to Ghana since the year of return thing was, started. A lot of people are migrating to Ghana, right?
And also, now that you've spoken about investment, sorry to cut you, what kind of investment will really work, from your opinion or from your expertise, works? Is it the Airbnb types or the renting out for long periods of time, let's say 2 years, 3 years types, or is it hotels or is it hostels? Which type would I really make my money from?
Okay, so it's an interesting question. We get this a lot, right? Now, what we usually tell anybody who asks that kind of question is it depends on the location, right? If the location is in a prime area, obviously you can do rentals in dollars and get a lot of money. If the location is a bit further away, you can do it like a tourist destination. The tourists, usually when they come, some like to go to places like Pram, etc., Ibri, and things like that. They are pretty far away from the capital, right? And then they go and spend their holidays and things over there. So that scenario, an Airbnb works. I know a lady who has built a beachfront apartment in Pram. It's pretty far, and charges about $900 a day for that property.
And
I have colleagues who go and book, like they are like 5 friends, they go and book for the weekend and stuff like that.
Wow.
You need to look at the location and look at the needs of the people within that location. If it's a place where there are sprouting businesses, right, then people will be moving in, wanting a place to rent so that they can be moving to work, right? So it could be, let's say, Pokwase. That's not close to the airport, but let's say there's a huge mall that has been started at Pokwase. Based on that fact, people would want to come and live close by because they'll be employed by the retail malls. Certain companies would prefer that the people they employ live within certain areas. So even within the job specification or the vacancy they post, they'll say you must be living within so and so areas. So if it's a bustling business community, but it's even far away from the capital, then you need to rent, like build for rent, because people want to move to rent.
I visited a friend's apartment at Osu, and you're paying, I think it was a 2-bedroom, you're paying, was it $4,000? This was in 2018. I think over $4,000 per month.
Wow.
This was, yeah. And then I've seen another for friend's tiny apartment, a single room with a tiny kitchen and a living area. And this was a little over, is it 2,000 or 3,000 Ghana cedi as well. So, but this was a huge building with lots of people in it. So, which ones do you think are more profitable for people in the diaspora that want to just invest? Which ones are really profitable and safer? Because the Airbnb, if it's not like Christmas season or whatever, we do get bookings. Is what I'm.
Yeah, you still get bookings, right? Obviously, your marketing and other things will come into play, right? So that people are aware, because if nobody knows about it, nobody will come and book, right? Now, the Osu scenario you referred to is the same way that price of land in Osu is expensive, right? So for you who is going to build in Osu, obviously you're going to buy the land in millions of dollars, right? So even if you are charging $2,000 or $4,000 a month, it's going to take you maybe 20 to 30 years to recoup the money that you invested. So based on the location, again, that's why I say based on the location, you decide what you are using it for and how much you can charge, right? Again, I was building on a point that based on also what's happening within the community. For example, the Brekusu area was not a place most people would have wanted to purchase land at. But then something happened and the value of the land increased. What happened was that Ashesi University moved from Laboni Cantonment area to Brekusu, far away in the bush, And then all of a sudden, the land that was being sold for 10,000 CDs is now 150,000. Do you understand? Because the school coming brings other things. People come and set up shops, facilities, playgrounds, gaming centers, malls, etc., just because of the university that has come there, right? So you need to identify what works in this particular location.
Okay.
If there's a university, definitely some students would want accommodation, and so you can set up a hostel, right? Or you can set up properties for rent.
Okay.
Do you understand? So you need to identify, one, what is the current value of the place, and two, what is the future value of the place. So how to know some of the future value of the places? When you go to, for example, town and county planning or to the Lands Commission,
Okay.
they will be able to tell you what the government's plan for the area is. So we know that in the Volta region in Ho, there was an airport that was built there, right? And we know wherever there's an airport, the land around the airport increases. So once you do some of these searches, it helps you to get an idea of the future value of the place.
And these are not searches I can do on my own online. I have to go to the Lands Commission. It's not
Yeah. You would need to go because the government has plans for every area, right? So sometimes there may be a landmark for, let's say, a university. So for example, this week there was the affordable housing project in Pokwase, right? This plan had been there for a long time. It's not as if it's just this week that the plan came up. So if you were somebody who had done all your search and you had bought land around that place, you know that there's a bustling ecosystem that's going to be built in this area. And so you can also position maybe an event center around it. You can position a hotel around it. You can position a mall around it, because you're going to get people that are going to be living right next to your mall. You understand? So getting an idea of the future value is really, 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 really important and cannot be overemphasized.
So, Mr. Frank, if I think I own a house in Ghana, what documents should I have? And then your final words for people in the diaspora that want to build, your final words.
All right, so that's a really good question, because some people are just working around with site plans and say they have their land documents. It doesn't give you the ownership.
Okay.
Some people are working around with indentures. Indenture is also not a proof of ownership. Indenture is like an agreement to sell you a property, right? So once you get all these documents, site plan or indenture, you now need to go to Lands Commission. There's a process that you need to go through. So there's a barcode that the surveyor will come and work with you to get. Then there are certain legal processes that a lawyer must come and then help you to do as well. Then when you are done, you will get a title, land title certificate. That is the one that when you have, shows that you are the owner of the house. Again, when you are purchasing the land, you need to check the period, the lease period, right? Because no land is freehold in Ghana any longer by law.
Wow.
So you need to find out, is it a 20-year lease period? Is it a 99 years? Is it 50 years, etc.?
What's a common one?
50 to 99 are very common,
Wow.
right? But again, you need to find out this 50 years, when did it start? Because you could go and buy a 50-year lease period, which has just 10 years to renew.
Wow.
You understand? So there are certain things that you need to check. And as usual, I'll just recommend go to Lands Commission. Then when you are done and you want to start building, go and get your building permit. It's really important. Maybe I'll end on that note, because recently there was a road expansion at the Atmota of Anko Pokwase in Sawam Road, right? And when it was done, again, that's why it's good for you to know what the future plan of government for a particular area is. People had purchased lands, and those lands were demarcated for roads, but they didn't know. They had built hotels, they had built offices, they had built their homes, etc. Then the government comes and says, this is the year that we are going to start the expansion works on that road to decongest traffic. And so everybody who is within, let's say, 10-meter radius of the current road, your houses need to go. They will be demolished, right? And it's happened several times. Now, when they are going to demolish, they are going to compensate the people who have properties there. But they will only compensate if you have your building permit. So people are walking around with site plan, no compensation. People are walking around with indenture, no compensation. People have built, they've even gotten the title, but no building permit, no compensation. So please, there are things, if sometimes people say in Ghana the laws don't work. but they work when they need to.
What
And
they
especially if you find yourself in trouble, you notice that the laws of Ghana really work. So you are building, try and get all your documentation done, building permits. Like, I know it takes a long time, it's frustrating.
It
The
does,
system
eh?
has been made to
how long?
frustrate people. Sometimes it can take a month, sometimes more.
That's okay. So you can say 2 years. That's fine.
No, but remember, that's 1 month to 2 months, right? You probably have paid money to somebody and you want to start building so that if there's any other interested party, you get to know. And then you have to wait for 2 months, because once you start to, they will appear magically and come and tell you to stop work.
I believe that honestly, I'll have to come back to this video. Thank you so
Okay.
much. Want more videos?
Okay, sure. Thank you so much for having me,
Have an
Nanelle.
inspiration when we see that, especially when we see that, oh, this was a piece of land, and then 3 months ago we saw you. Let's say the ones that you are doing for people, if they'll permit you, maybe you can
Yeah.
share it with us as well to motivate us, and they will be inspired, and then we'll take a few lessons from it as well. Thank you so much. I have really benefited from this, honestly. God bless you.
Bye.